Welcome back to another episode of the Royals Review podcast. You join us following Reading's first away win of the season with a 2-1 victory over Exeter. First of all, Jim, I'm just going to ask you, how are you doing?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, very good. I feel like we rush into these sometimes and we talk straight about the football, so it's nice to have a little bit of waffle before we start. I'm pretty good. If I'm perfectly honest, I'm a little bit hungover, and maybe that is a result of 2 wins in a week. Who knows? Maybe it's just a few too many beers last night, but I'll leave that for viewers' discretion. Let's talk about the football then, because lots of reasons to be positive this week. Obviously, we've already spoke about the win over Crawley, and now we're going to speak about the win against Exeter on the road, 2-1, as I already mentioned. Talk to me about the game in general. How did you feel Reading played, and any comments?
I think it was a game of two halves, really. There was sort of mixed emotions as well about the lineup. But I know many people, including ourselves, we were excited to see Jaden Wareham start. The first half was arguably the best half of football, I think, this season. Wareham obviously got his goal early with a well-taken finish from just inside the box. And Reading sort of dominated, really, from then onwards. Towards the end, another first league goal, but this time from Michael Craig, who tapped in the rebound. And then we went in, 2-0 up at the break. Second half, though, Exeter played so much better. I think this is something that everyone was almost waiting to happen and worrying about, is just the second half performance of away matches. That seems to be where improvements are needed the most. The changes they made had an instant impact, really. And Reading found it hard to sort of get back into the game, let alone pick up where they sort of left off in the first half. Garcia, who I thought played pretty well, another good game from him, was targeted, eventually Exeter got their goal back through. I think his name's Miskanen, Finnish guy, and he had looked like Exeter's best player, even in the first half. If they did get any chances, and it was with Miskanen, he looked the most dangerous for sure. Some great defending again from Mbengue, and a really good block at the end of the match from Dean. Saw the game out, and we picked up the first away win. And I think I tweeted sort of earlier this week as well. Like, it's so frustrating just having to sit and watch the team get peppered for 45 minutes, especially after such a encouraging first half. But then I was thinking about it, and like, look, this is League One. These games are not pretty, and ultimately, the important thing is coming away with 3 points, and that's what we did. So I'm really happy with that performance. Like I said before, and like we were discussing on the last pod, I think it's a massive win. I really hope it can sort of define the rest of the season going forward, and we can get another 3 points this weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just to pick up on your comment on like League One football, like I think you're spot on. And most of the time, it's just about getting results. Like I'm happy as long as we're picking up points. I don't really care if we do have to endure that. And also, like, there's been such a period of time where Reading just wouldn't endure that pressure, and they'd concede late goals and throw away points. Yeah. So I look at that result on Tuesday and think, like, we've come a long way from that team that just conceded loads of late goals, was facing loads of pressure and just couldn't withstand it. So I think there's a lot to be quite proud of with that performance against Exeter. As you said, it was a game of two halves. And I also agree that I think it was probably our best half of football in the first half. Mm-hmm. And the main thing I was impressed with in the first half is Reading's press. I thought they were so quick to close down. They were all over the place in terms of following the ball, tracking their men. Like, it was so good. They put Exeter under so much pressure, and that's ultimately where the goals came from. Which is quite interesting because it's kind of what we talked about Crawley doing to us on Saturday in that period where we struggled. So yeah, I think that's a really good trait of Sellers' management is enforcing the press, and we have such a good squad for that. Obviously, Wareham came in; he's super keen to get involved in the press. But players in our midfield like Charlie Savage and Harvey Knibbs, who we already know do so much running, do so much back and forth, and they're really good at it. And as I said, we were rewarded with both goals really from that press. So. Yeah, lots to be excited about, I think, and well, big games come quick, don't they? Like we're almost ready to talk about our next game, but let's stick with Exeter for a bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
You already mentioned first goals for Wareham and Craig. I think, and this is probably my fault, maybe both of us, but I don't think we've actually covered Michael Craig enough on this podcast so far this season, and I think he's sort of flown under the radar. I know there is a little bit of chat on social media about him and. How underrated he is and how much he's actually done for this side. And I also don't really want to just talk about him because he scored, because he's obviously doing a lot more than that. But just generally, what have you made of Michael Craig so far this season?
Yeah, I mean, he's our unsung hero, really. With Yeardom out and Abrafa either injured or just seemingly not the right player, then not ready, or not someone that Sellers feels comfortable with playing in that position, I guess. I think Michael Craig has slotted into that right back spot seamlessly almost. He looks really good there. I mean, I'm definitely excited to see him play in midfield when he gets that chance once Yeardom's back, who I assume will come back into the team. I think Craig's been decent. He's just been consistently good, consistently what's needed from someone playing in that spot. He's been caught out a couple times, like even against Exeter. In that second half, he did lose his man a couple times, and unfortunately, one of them did lead to the goal. I mean, I'm not saying it was down to him at all, but I mean, there's still definitely work to be done there. I still think it's an area of the pitch that needs focusing on in terms of recruitment. But in terms of how Craig has been performing, I think he's definitely been one of the better perform. I mean, I don't really think there's been anyone that hasn't performed particularly well, or very few. But he's definitely up there as one of the better performers in the team this season. And I mean, you can't complain too much. He's put his hand up and said, "Look, I can play this position. I've played it before when I was at Spurs." And then he's just been helping the team out there ever since. Glad that he got on the score sheet. By the reaction of all the players, it sounds like he's not much of a goal scorer at all. They were all pretty shocked that he found the back of the net.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said, and I love that attribute of someone just saying, "Look, I know we need this doing. It's not my natural position, but I can definitely fill in there." And I think in the position that Reading are in, I feel kind of sick talking about the squad depth every week. But with the squad depth issues that we have, you really need that. And obviously then it's even better when the person who does fill in is performing really highly in that position, which I think Michael Craig is. And another key thing is the amount of minutes he's played. Like, for somebody who's come in, I don't want to say out of position because he's not strictly out of position, but in a different position. Mm-hmm. He's played 958 minutes, which makes him the fourth. He's played the fourth most minutes out of any Reading player this season, which just goes to show how important he's been. He has made the second most tackles of any defender, fourth most across the team, but obviously Lewis Wing and Harvey Knibbs and Ben Elliott all rank highly because they're getting stuck in the middle. Much more tackles to be won. 16 tackles, and only Mbengue has made more. Mbengue is actually Reading's top tackler this season with 25 tackles, which I was slightly surprised to see. But we'll come on to Mbengue. He's just fantastic at everything. But I completely agree. I think Craig's sort of gone under the radar a bit. And I've been very impressed with his performances. So long may they continue. Let's talk about Harvey Knibbs, because I did briefly mention on our last podcast that he struggled to get into the game against Crawley and to have any impact. Do you think he showed an improved performance against Exeter?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not sure if you've got any sort of tackling stats or anything like that, but you could just see he was so much more like in the game. He wasn't really in the game against Crawley. So yeah, I mean, I think Harvey back more centrally is a much better position, and he can sort of perform his best there. And I know we briefly mentioned about sort of work rates between him and Charlie earlier, and yeah, I think that's what you can clearly see with these players, especially the midfielders. It's just how much ground they cover. They're everywhere all the time, putting in tackles, winning the ball back up high. Obviously, Knibbs won the ball back for the assist for Wareham's goal. And that was the 58th second. So I don't know. Within 55 seconds, Harvey's already putting in tackles high up, winning the ball back, and getting assists like that. That just sums him up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. The key stat here for me is the interceptions. 4 interceptions from Harvey Knibbs against Exeter, which is at least 2 more than any other player on the pitch, versus 1 against Crawley. And as I kind of said last week, I don't want to sit here and suggest that Knibbs was terrible against Crawley, but I just think we're talking about this to basically just say in the centre of midfield, he is top quality and maybe he is less so impactful out on the wing. So hopefully no injuries to Kelv or any of the other wingers and Harvey Knibbs can continue in the middle of the park. Just looking at his who scored ratings as well, 7.23 against Exeter, and I think it was 6 something. Where are we? 6.67 against Crawley. So yeah, rightfully so, a higher rated performance against Exeter. Another player that impressed, I think. And you've put on the run sheet here, Mbengue madness. I mean, it seems like that's every week, but what are you talking about specifically here?
I mean, literally, as it is, Mbengue madness. I mean, he's just a crazy player, isn't he? I think against Crawley, obviously, very excited after his goal. Picked up a yellow, was really sort of like pushing his luck towards the end. Hence Sellers sort of losing his head a bit against him, and I don't blame him. But yeah, I think just in general, like he's just crazy. He's just a crazy defender. Like we've mentioned it before, he doesn't look like the kind of defender that would have the stats that he's got. And I mean, I know you were saying earlier that he's Reading's biggest. He's got the most tackles in the team. I just think he's a fantastic player, and he's just improved so much. With every game that he plays, and yeah, the match against Exeter was no different. I thought he was fantastic. He was on the him and Binden had sort of switched sides in defence. So Mbengue was playing on the left, and then obviously filled in at left back when Garcia was subbed. And just going back to what you were saying about Craig and the sort of versatility and the importance of having these versatile players, these players that can sort of cover more than 1 or 2 positions, is just so key for our squad. And I think Mbengue he's probably the most versatile player in our squad, I'd say. I mean, I've seen him play since he signed. I've seen him play on the wing, I've seen him play in midfield, and I've seen him play every position across the defensive back line. That just sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Right. Do you want some stats for the Exeter game from Mbengue? Because
let's have it.
I knew he played well. I was quite shocked to see how well. He was WhoScored.com's highest rated player, so the man of the match for that game with a 7.69 rating, which is pretty decent.
Can I jump in here quickly? Just for anyone that's watching this that doesn't really understand about the WhoScored ratings, what would you say is like the benchmark for a very good performance?
Well, the rating's out of 10, obviously. I would say a good performance would be 7+. A bad performance would be below 6. 6 to 7 is bog standard. I think I should know this, considering this is my job, and I'm going to guess. but I think everyone starts on a 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you didn't do anything, you'd finish on a 6. That kind of is the best barometer.
Yeah.
So a rating of 7.69, well, it might not sound amazing because it's out of 10. That is pretty high, particularly when he obviously hasn't scored, he hasn't assisted, and he's been booked. But there are over 200 stats that go into the whoscored.com rating. So there's so many things that can impact your rating. Mm-hmm. So it is quite a subjective measure, which is why I like to bring it on to these podcasts, because it's not like I'm just saying, oh, I thought Mbengue was really good. Mbengue was really good this week. I'm going to give him 8 out of 10. It is actually loads of data and a subjective measure. So it's quite good to use, because people can't really then say, oh, well, you're super biased. You've given man of the match to a Reading player.
Mm-hmm. And just correct me if I'm wrong. This is just going off of stuff that I've seen previously, just sort of full comparison for anyone that's interested. Players that end up in the sort of the team of the season for their respective league, going off of what I've seen previously, most of those players that are in that team fall somewhere between sort of 7 and 8 a lot of the time. So anywhere sort of in 7 or above is sort of considered a very good performance, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you can average at above 7 for a season, I'd say you've had a pretty good campaign. Right, stats. Man of the match, we've already covered that. Most key passes of any Reading players in this game with 2, 1 successful dribble, one dribble attempted, so 100% success rate with his dribbles. We know that Mbengue is loving going on these mazy runs, but effective against Exeter. 1 aerial win, which it's not that great. 5 tackles, the most of any player on the pitch. 13 clearances.
Crazy.
13 clearances. That's the 4th highest total of any player in a single game in League One this season. I'm slightly annoyed because Tristan Kramer, is that how you say his name, for Exeter, also had 13 in this game. Because if he didn't have that, I'd have tweets out, I'd have everything out. But anyway, 13 is wild, and 2 interceptions. So basically, he was just absolutely everywhere. Another great performance from him. He's so important to Reading. And one thing, I mean, this applies to basically every single Reading player, bar Knibbs and Smith, who aren't exactly old. I'm constantly surprised at how young Mbengue is and how young everyone is. It's ridiculous. I sort of look to Mbengue as oh, he's one of the senior players. He's I think he's 21, isn't he, or 22? That's wild.
I'm not actually too sure, Let me have a quick look.
I looked before, but I haven't written it down. Yeah, he's 22.
It's 22. I mean, I actually thought he was older than that as well, to be fair.
It's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That's so good. So good. Right. One other player actually that we haven't really written down about, but I did want to mention is, in fact, 2. But the first one is Jaden Wareham. Not that much to say, but just really impressed with him. I saw so many stupid comments on Twitter when the lineup was announced saying, oh, well, we won't score today then without Smith, which is just so under-researched and ridiculous. And I just completely disagree with everyone that was suggesting that. And lo and behold, 58 seconds later, Jaden Wareham pops up with his first league goal for Reading. So that silenced those guys. I hope they don't come back, because I think Jaden Wareham, and we've talked about him before, is top quality. I know we haven't seen loads of him play, but we have seen him in PL2. And he's top quality there. Noel Hunt thinks he's top quality, who is someone that I would most definitely trust his opinion. The turn for the goal and the finish is just, it's fantastic. It's so good. It's so composed for someone in their first league start for the club. I'm just so impressed with him, and I'm really happy for him, really, that he got his chance and he took it. I think me and both of us were tweeting, really excited for Wareham today. He's going to grab this opportunity with both hands, and he absolutely did that. So fair play to Wareham, and long may it continue. And as we've said before, I'm not suggesting that Smith doesn't play, because I love Sam Smith and I've talked about at length about him. But it's great to have another option and a player that deserves the chances that he gets. And as we've seen already, first game, he takes chances. And that's fantastic. I'm not even going to give you a chance to speak on that because I talked a little bit longer than I wanted. But also, just quickly before we move on to Bristol Rovers, Joel Pereira. What did you make of his performance? Do you think Reading are a better side with Joel Pereira in the team?
I do, yes. To keep it short and simple, yeah, it's good that he's back. I just think, even like off the top of my head, I can't really recall like too many big saves that he had to make against Exeter compared to the saves that Button had to make against Crawley. But I just think, Pereira just puts so much more confidence in the defence that's in front of him. That's where I see the impact, the immediate impact anyway. So yeah, great news that he's back. Yeah, I mean, simple as that, really.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. I thought he looked so much more assured on the ball. As you say, he made 4 saves, but I don't recall any of them being like, I don't really recall him being under too much pressure. But anyway, I think it's great to have him back. And I think, as you say, Reading are a better side with him in the 11. And we probably have to look forward to that tomorrow. We're recording this on Friday now due to a little bit of drinking on my side and poor availability. But let's look ahead to Bristol Rovers then.
Yeah,
I've just read Reading are undefeated in their last 9 matches against Bristol Rovers in all competitions. Reading are obviously a very, very good side at home. You don't really need me to reread my stat off, but no team in England's top 4 leagues have won more points at home this season than Reading. Reading are in a great run of form. 4 wins in 5, outside of the playoffs on goal difference. But Bristol Rovers are also in very decent form at the moment. I'm desperately trying to find it, if you can't tell why I'm speaking so slowly. But I know they beat Shrewsbury last time out.
They're. I think they're 3 points behind us. So another big game.
Yeah, 3 points behind us, and we'll obviously go level if they beat us at the weekend. And as I say, decent win against Shrewsbury. They have this player, Promise Omacheri. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, but he looks really good, like a really bright prospect. I was speaking to the Bristol Rovers reporter earlier this week just to get some of his thoughts ahead of this game, and he was like, "Yeah, this guy is a goal scorer, and he looks top quality." So, I've got him down as the one to watch. Another player who I wanted to talk about, and is a player that has given me nightmares, real serious nightmares, and I probably imagine the same for you, is Scott Sinclair. He is a player that always seems to score against Reading, and also inflicted probably one of the worst days of my Reading FC supporting life when Swansea beat us in the playoffs. In fact, that wasn't the worst. Huddersfield was definitely worse. Scott Sinclair, he scored 2 goals already this season. He's right up there as Bristol's top scorer, along with Omacheri and Jamie Lindsay. He just always scores against Reading, and I don't want it to happen this week at all. But there we go. Any thoughts on Bristol Rovers? I feel like I'm doing them a bit of a disservice here with a little bit of lack of prep. But have you got anything to add?
No, I mean, I think it's just a typical League One match, really, isn't it? It's the games that I feel both sides are going to be coming into thinking that they could probably pick something up. So yeah, it should be a decent match, like you said. Home form at the Select Carlton Stadium is fantastic. So hopefully that can continue. But yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. Return to the SCL for Clinton Mola as well, who I think, going off of what the reporter from Bristol mentioned, has been performing pretty well. One of the favourites for the fans there. So yeah, I mean, it's just a typical League One game that you want Reading to sort of grind out, similar to the match against Exeter, really, isn't it? I would, without any sort of disrespect towards Bristol Rovers, but I think we've come up against harder teams so far this season. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's definitely a match where I think both teams are probably going to be wanting to pick something up, and we'll feel confident in doing that.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of things that I've noticed whilst you were speaking. I mentioned on the last pod that it was likely that Reading would dominate in the air against Exeter, and that definitely did unfold, particularly in the first half. They were all over Exeter in the air. I think it was like 81% aerial wins for Reading and 19 for Exeter, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But Bristol Rovers are the opposite. They're not. That's not one of their strengths at all in the air. So, what am I talking about? That is one of their strengths in the air. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. Reading coming up against a team that are also good in the air. Again, another team that are weak at defending set pieces, which Reading can hopefully capitalise on. We spoke about that before, and lo and behold, Lewis Wing does the business. And that's it. They like to attack down the left, which is much like Exeter, and well, we withstood that. So, on the whole, we did. So yeah, a good game. I am looking forward to it. As you say, home games have become really something to look forward to at the moment. One, with the growing crowds, the atmosphere is improving, the team are performing. Ruben Sellers, the best manager in the league. Like, home games are really something to look forward to. So this one is doesn't deviate from the rule. So a good game to look forward to on Saturday. Before we end it then, Jim, give us your score prediction.
I'm going 2-1 Reading.
Nice. I am going for the exact same result. So that's very, very boring for us.
As always.
Yeah. 2-1 to Reading. I think Scott Sinclair is going to score for Bristol Rovers, as I've mentioned 100 times already today. But I do think the Royals win. Reading have been scoring pretty freely, and I actually think I've already forgotten what the Bristol Rovers manager's called, so sorry to him. But that's the one thing that he outlined in his pre-match presser is how good Reading are on the attack, how good they are in the press, and he was talking about how freely Reading score. Mm-hmm. There have been over 2.5 goals in all of Reading's last 6 games in League One, and yeah, Reading have 2 against Exeter, 4 against Crawley, 1 against Rotherham, but then 3 against Burton, 2 against Huddersfield, 2 against Bolton. Like, yeah, we're finding the back of the net, and you have to think if you score twice in this league, chances are you will win games and pick up points. So hopefully that is the case. I'm waffling now as we come up to the half an hour mark. So let's call this and let's go and finish the day of work and look forward to the game on Saturday. Cheers for joining me, Jim. Thanks anyone who's watched. Please do like, follow, subscribe, tweet us, all the rest. I've also realised I forgot to answer your questions, but we can cover them off next week. Catch you later, guys. Come on, you R's.
See you later, mate.